everyone, welcome back to the Allaire Village YouTube channel. We are back with another cooking video. My name is Heather and I'll be subbing in for Felicity this month. Today we're going to be making the Queen of Puddings recipe in the Common Sense in the Household, a manual of practical housewifery by Marian Harland. This book would have been very common in households. A pudding dish was also quite common. This specific pudding is based on a bread pudding. Here's what you'll need. 1½ cups of granulated white sugar, 2 cups of dry, unseasoned breadcrumbs, 5 eggs, 1 tablespoon of butter, rosewater, vanilla, or lemon seasoning. Today we'll be using rosewater, 1 quart of fresh milk, 1 quart of whole milk, 1/2 cup small to medium container of jam. If you are not already subscribed, click the subscribe button below and turn on notifications so that way you get notified every time we post a video. Let's get cooking. So the first step with our Queen of Puddings is to take a tablespoon of butter. I've let it come to room temperature and I've cut it up into little like pea-sized chunks. I'm just going to dump it in the sugar and then using my hands I'm going to break it down even further so it's a little bit more well mixed. So just kind of going like that, similar to how you would be making almost like a pie crust by hand. Just breaking it up and mixing. It's not a lot of butter so it's not going to be like perfectly mixed. Okay, so I feel like that's pretty well mixed. You can't really see any super obvious chunks of butter and it looks pretty together. Okay, so now what I've done is separated 5 eggs into the yolks and the whites. I have my 5th and final egg right here. Then what I'm going to do is just beat the egg yolks very lightly and we're going to save the egg whites so that we can make a meringue for the top of the pudding later. So I'm just using the back of a paring knife to break the egg and gently see if we can salvage the yolk without breaking it. Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, so that goes in there. And we need our fork. And now we're just gonna beat the egg yolks very lightly. That seems lightly to me. Alrighty, so here we have the sugar and butter combination and the egg yolks. So what I'm gonna do now is take the egg yolks and just dump them into the sugar, and then I'm just gonna use this spoon and kind of gently fold them in and get it as even as I possibly can. So we'll do this. And I'll take my spoon and just kind of get out as much as I can. Great. Okay. And once again, we're just stirring. Great. So I'm just a little bit further. Kind of just pushing it against the side of the bowl. Careful not to overmix, seeing if there's any streaks of white sugar left, which I don't currently see. So I think we should be good. Alrighty, so here I have the cream and then I have the breadcrumbs. So these are just plain unseasoned breadcrumbs. I'm gonna dump them in here and soak them in milk, and then I have rose water. So this is gonna be the flavoring that we can use today. You can also use vanilla or lemon seasoning as they called it. Lemon seasoning might be lemon juice, it's unclear. So we're gonna soak that together, add in about a tablespoon of rose water and let that soak. Okay, so before I stir that, I'm just gonna do about a tablespoon of rose water. It's super fragrant, we can smell it as we're doing this right now. And really gently, just kind of get all that together. Alright, so I'm just going to let that soak for a couple minutes and then we will come right back to it. So here we have the milk and breadcrumbs mixture and our egg yolks mixture. So we're just going to combine those two together, mix very gently, and then we have a souffle pan. You're going to want a pretty decently sized one. But what I'm gonna do right now is just gently pour that in there. The breadcrumbs have definitely set up a little bit, which is a good thing. That's what you want. And now I'm just gonna kind of gently stir that together. Still smells like rose water. Here at Allaire Village, all of the villagers primarily shared one oven for communal use, and that was the beehive oven in the bakery. And because so many people were trying to use it at one time, at its peak there were about 400 people living and working here at Allaire Village, it meant that you pretty much only had access to it about once a week. So at the end of the week, you might have leftover bread that could be a little bit stale. And so that means that you would have to turn it into things like puddings and other things where you could use stale bread in order to just make the most of whatever you had at home in your pantry. Okay, so I've been mixing this for a while, and here we have our souffle pan. So all I'm going to do is just pour it in there until about 2/3 of the pan is full, because the top is going to have the meringue, and so I want to make sure that there's enough room in the pan to have the meringue. So I'm just going to go like this until it's about 2/3 full. That looks good to me. And then once that's ready to go, we're going to stick this in the oven until the custard is set. We're gonna have our oven preheating to 325 degrees, and then we're gonna let that sit in there until the custard is set. So the recipe in the book doesn't give us an exact timeline for that, so we're just gonna keep our eye on it, probably checking it every 5 or 10 minutes or so. Okay, so here we have the 5 egg whites from before. So now I'm gonna be making the meringue to go on top of the pudding. So what I'm gonna do is add in about a tablespoon of sugar at a time. So in total, I'm only gonna add about a 1/4 cup of sugar, so it's not gonna be super sweet, but just enough. So again, I have the egg whites. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of sugar now, just granulated white sugar. Really, less than a tablespoon really, more like a teaspoon. Just kind of gently sprinkle that in there. Then we have this handy dandy hand mixer. So I'm just gonna put this in, and I'm gonna crank it and whisk the eggs, and then probably about after 2 minutes, I'm gonna add another tablespoon of sugar and keep going until we have stiff peaks. So we have this really nice foamy consistency. I'm gonna add a little bit more sugar in there as well. So this will be like the 2nd teaspoon. Again, very gently. Okay, I'm gonna go in with the 3rd teaspoon of sugar. Going in with the 4th teaspoon of sugar. I think we're at the maybe soft peak stage right now. Alrighty, so here we have one of our puddings. We actually made 2 of them because we had a little bit extra of the batters. This is part 2 of 2. And then we also have our Smucker's jam. So you can use whatever jam you have in your house. We're just using strawberry today, but we're gonna take a little bit, probably a 1/3 to a 1/2 of the container, and then we're just gonna spread it evenly on top. You can do a little bit or a lot. Totally up to you, whatever your preference calls for. You can try to do your best to spread it evenly, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to use about a 1/3 to a 1/2 of this meringue here to cover the top of the pudding, and then it's going to go back in the oven until the meringue has color. Kind of trying to evenly spread it on there. I'm just going to do it in a couple different locations and then like spread each individual spot. All right, now I'm just going to spread it around. So now that we have our meringue on top, we're just gonna stick it back in the oven at the same 350 degrees until the meringue has color. So we're just gonna keep an eye on it, probably about 10 minutes or so, give or take a few. Okay, so we have our finished product. It took about 2 hours from start to finish. I'm gonna give it a taste. We'll see how it is. I'm excited. It looks pretty good. It smells pretty good. It's good. It's, you definitely taste, I think, the strawberry the most, which is a really good thing. It kind of reminds me of strawberry shortcake in a way. I like it a lot. It's, the sponginess of the meringue is really nice. And I don't taste the rose water too much, but I definitely smell it, which would make sense because I think it's more of like a fragrancer as opposed to like a flavor agent. I think if you were to use like lemon or vanilla like they had mentioned in the recipe, you're probably gonna have a little bit of like a different result. But it's really good and I definitely would eat it again. I like it. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like and subscribe and let us know in the comments if you tried today's recipe. If you want to check out the other cooking videos on our channel, there will be a link below. See you next time.